Order, please stand for the pledge and remain standing for the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dear God, please bless our planning commissioners, grant them courage and wisdom to do what is right for all citizens. Amen. Could we have a roll call, please?
Vic,
Present.
Brian,
Present.
Dennis,
Here.
Andrea,
Present.
Kevin,
Present.
Tracy,
Present.
Rick.
Thank you. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from the April 10th, 2024 meeting? Any corrections, suggestions? Okay.
Motion to accept the minutes as presented. Support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay. So correspondence, we have ABCs of ZBAs. If anyone's interested in going to training, looks like, go
Is
ahead,
that the May 22nd?
May 22nd in Frankenmuth.
I'm going with that one.
Kevin's going. That's an excellent training. If you haven't been, that Frankenmuth is a really, really good training if anyone wants to go.
And you get chicken.
And you get chicken. Okay. And I just want to remind everyone to speak into the microphones. People are saying that they can't hear on YouTube at home, our 4 or 5 viewers. So, okay. Public comments. Does anyone have anything to discuss that is not on the agenda? Okay. No late agenda items. Introduction, no public hearing, new business. Okay, we're going to start off with old business. Jimmy's Storage, third review. Special land use 2301. I'd like to start with Corey.
Thank you. I'll go over my May 29th letter. Regarding zoning ordinance, they comment that dumpster closure is not included in the site plan. That was a previous comment. They did have a dumpster closure detail, but it was not clear. The ordinance requires it to be masonry in nature, the decorative block or brick. I did receive today via email the applicant's kind of response to what we had, and they said, please see sheet 6 for detail. There is a detail there. Then I'd like to know is that it just says decorative wall. Should this go forward, then it would clearly needs to be masonry, or obviously they can go to variance route, but typically it's not advisable.
There is a wall detail on that sheet as well.
Excuse me?
There's a wall detail on there as well.
Well, I was looking at the dumpster detail that was provided.
There's a-
Okay, if you want to come on up, if you want to speak, come on up to the microphone. Yep.
Yeah, we could also add a wall detail to that page as well. On page 6.
Excuse me, real quick. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm Tim Eady from Chink Engineering.
What was your name?
Tim Eady from
Tim
Chink
Eady?
Engineering.
Okay, thank you.
To go further through, we make a comment after that, the engineering comments, and I'll come back to that. real quick. To go through the rest of the letter, we just made a note, again, this has been a standing note, we're proposing a stormwater retention pond that's relying on the soils, and it is dependent. Once they construct it, they provided evidence of what the soils were, so it can move forward. But should it, the applicant just needs to know, should it go forward, and those conditions are met during construction, they would have to revisit the design on that, which is standard for every retention when they rely on soil percolation. Then we just make general comments on the permits that are required. That all has to be in place before they can break ground. It's typically not for a site plan should go forward, that's usually a contingent, but they get those permits, but if they do not, it doesn't go forward anyway. So really on our end, We know that all sheets have to be signed and sealed, I understand, on the submittal they have tonight that they're signed and sealed. And then again, I made a comment on the dumpster detail. I enlarged the detail on it, but we did receive the plans today, so they may be able to go deeper into it. I didn't see a quick review, a wall detail, just looked at the dumpster detail. So my comments are very minor in nature, as they relate to the engineering.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
just one thing on the date. Are you sure that's May 29th?
Oh, April 29th.
Thank you.
My ears are a little bad.
I thought maybe I missed a month.
Oh, and I do have one other clarification on that. As a general note, the applicant is fencing. It should be is not fencing. The perimeter, they are putting gates at the entrance, but the perimeter of this is not proposed to be fenced.
Alex?
Good evening, everyone. So, just to go back, I just want to bring up something real quick. So as you know, this is a special land use in the recently rezoned industrial district. So the standards of special land use still apply. I do have on the screen, although it's quite fuzzy there, standards A, B, C, and D. In summary, the such location, size, and layout, periods of operation, so on and so forth, are not detrimental to the surrounding neighborhood or create unacceptable off-site impacts to traffic, dust, noise, fumes, vibration, smoke, and light. Standard A, standard B, characteristic of proposed specialty land use such as location, size, layout, periods of operation, character will not unreasonably interfere with the or discourage the appropriate development and use of adjacent land and buildings and unreasonably affect their value. Standard C, proposed use of a design of use is so designed, located, planned, and to be operated that public health, safety, and welfare will be protected. Standard D, proposed use shall be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance and township master plan. As you can see, I provided you guys a letter last week regarding some of the outstanding things regarding trash receptacle. I know we'll talk about that here quickly. Separate drawings are proposed sign. I don't think I saw any sign details. The appearance of the building, sheet 10 provides details. The appearance that includes black building with gray doors. It includes faux brick, but uncertain where the brick will be located on the building. Is the building intended to use steel materials? Would the storage facility also be fenced? I can't tell by the details if there's a proposed fence around the perimeter via phase 1 or phase 2 or any of the phases. And if there is proposed fence, will the fence just be for phase 1, then be removed and then placed for phase 2 because there was a proposed 2 phases here. The proposed fence is to enclose detention base, like I just mentioned. Sign, like I said, there's no detail provided. General parking requirements. So with this being parking requirements, curbs meeting the construction standards established. Like I said, I'm going to defer to Corey on that for any comments about curb and engineering for the parking. Screening requirements. Sheet 10 provides landscaping plan. Will all trees be planted at time of phase 1 to provide screening? So that's just a question because I know phase 1's about half the size of phase 2. So along with fencing and screening, additional screening details are required. Sheet 10 provides details of burn as height varies from 3-to-1 ratio and a 2-foot width at the peak. So there's details about the burn. Green belts, additional screening details. Burn and landscaping screening is proposed, but again, it ties back into the above landscaping. Just general question. General site landscaping requirements. Sheet 10 proposes the use of evergreens, fir, spruce, pine, Douglas fir. I'm not sure exactly which species will be installed. I do believe those are all allowable species of trees. And the other question is one row of trees sufficient for screening? And if that berm is 2 feet at the top width, would that be sufficient to sustain, 2 rows of trees or 1 row of tree? I believe 1 row possibly. But then again, the location of trash receptacle, Corey just pointed out generally on site plan revisions, sometimes, there might be like a little bubble or something that highlights that. If you look closely to sheet 4 and 5, particularly 5, the proposed dumpster enclosure is near the entrance of the, of phase 1, kind of coming off Van Dyke, close to retention basin. With that being said, I want to point you back to the zoning ordinance, section 7.4, location screening of trash receptacles. So, let me find my spot here. So the trash receptacle shall be so located in second section, where you always read the whole thing. The height of the masonry screening shall be 6 feet of height. The wall shall be maintained so as to remain structural, sound, neat, and clean in appearance. Trash shall not be allowed to overflow from the receptacle. Trash receptacles shall be so located and arranged to minimize the visibility from adjacent streets and uses. So this is planned to be near the street, so I just want to make sure that the screening is appropriate. No trash receptacle shall be placed any closer than 40 feet to any residential zoning district. The location, I guess, would mitigate against if it's in the back or to the north or the west or the north, because that would be residential districts. All trash recyclables shall be located on the site to be accessible as possible without interfering with vehicular circular patterns. I'm concerned with that is it is right by the entrance, so having a big, trash truck in that area, there could be an issue with traffic and flow of traffic in and out of the site. And the last part is trash receptacles shall be located to minimize their impact in any adjoining residential zoning district. So it's up to the planning commission to see. I did not have time to address all the new drawings as we just received it today, or of all the comments, but I know the applicant's here to discuss those with you.
Great, thank you.
So just to note, it's whatever process you guys want to take, but essentially you guys can review the special land use and approve or disapprove of it, or table it. And if you do approve, then you could review the site plan, but I know there's a lot of site plan questions related to special land use, but generally speaking, you guys can review the special land use and then review the plan, but both need to be approved. The special land use and its standards, as well as the standard of approval for the site plan.
Thank you. Would like to start.
I wouldn't know where to begin.
To have the applicant address the comment, because they did provide, I think you had copies of those.
Okay.
Their comments were quickly done on the review letter, so the applicant wants to address those and kind of go through.
Sure. I actually grabbed my wrong set of my letter. I actually grabbed one for project up in Sandusky. Great. Thank you.
All right, we can start off with the first one. So the dumpster enclosure on sheet 6.
It is noted that it's a masonry wall, and then we do have the masonry wall detail right near it, yeah.
So decorative wall.
Rather than updating the detail I provided previously, they added a detail below that for the wall itself, instead it is masonry, decorative block or masonry.
So that makes your requirement, then your
Yes.
comment is good, right?
Okay.
So the only thing that's still open on that is the location.
Yeah, I think as Alex mentioned, it is located, one of the parameters, it isn't a set parameter, but that's why the planning commission would review it. As far as the location, whether the location up by the road is where it's desired, it is screened in a dumpster enclosure, or whether the planning commission wants some additional screening around the dumpster because of the location, or around a different location. That's kind of the parameters of what the enclosure.
I think another thing to mention is if the planning commission also, I know it says 6 feet, but the planning commission's discretion for public health, safety, welfare, and I know I say this all the time, but if you feel 6 feet sufficient or not, I mean, given that people are storing stuff, they may be getting rid of stuff, is 6 feet enough? Because there could be stuff that's taller than 6 feet that people are getting rid of. You know, it could be a cabinet or something sitting there and give me above 6 feet and protruding above the wall and the view from the street. So I think that's something to consider if 6 feet is sufficient height to screen the dumpster. The intent generally is 6 feet because you want 6 feet to be at a minimum to screen in the actual physical dumpster. But if there's extra debris or stuff, large materials that don't make it into the dumpster, they'll be in that site and they'll be perhaps protruding above that. So, and if you do want screening to have a wall to contain the materials as well as trees or whatever to screen a masonry wall from the street, right? So.
The intent was not to allow the customers to use that. That was just for on-site garbage, right? It's not for anybody who's dispensing trash there, so,
The site doesn't actually generate any garbage.
yeah.
The planning commission wanted a dumpster, so made it a dumpster.
Can you step up and identify yourself?
Sam Saba.
Sam Saba, okay.
If somebody's not, if they're not paying the rent and we end up kicking them out, they're gonna leave all their stuff in there. And then we gotta hire somebody to take it out. So the dumpster is pretty much for us for, I don't know, there's nobody really be there. We're not getting really no garbage.
On-site generated.
Yeah,
So, my name's Habib Saba.
The issue with the garbage truck when it pulls in, they're only there for a couple minutes. So, and we're gonna have to call them when it's time to empty it because we're not gonna give them a code to get in there. The code's gonna be just for us and the fire department and the customers. So we're gonna have to call them and say, hey, come dump it here, we're here, and they'll get rid of it. But if we have somebody's not paying, they're not gonna use our dumpster. And we gotta have an auction by law or something like that. We're new to this. And then whatever is garbage, we're gonna hire a company to come and empty it, and take it away.
While we're on that topic, what is the challenge with the location? I don't know.
Just it's the view from the street, could be interfering with traffic patterns as it's the main mode of getting it out of the site for phase one, off Van Dyke. If in the event that, there's large items there, will they be protruding above the 6 feet? So just things that to consider, because down the road, it could be perfectly fine. Everything's operating differently. It could be a different operator or owner in the future or whatever's conditions. And all of a sudden, we're getting phone calls, like the township's getting phone calls because there could be, issues regarding large items or the view or so on and so forth. So it's just something that we want to make sure we iron it out so that going forward, it's it's a win-win.
Yeah, I think what they did is a big improvement. As long as there's a truck can get in and out of there. It looks like there's plenty of room.
Enclosure itself is set back a bit ways off the, and with a concrete pad, in front of it.
Yeah, it seems to me that you're gonna monitor that pretty close. So anything protruding above the wall would be taken care of pretty quick.
Looks like the enclosure itself is almost 35 feet from the edge of the traffic pattern.
Mhm.
25 feet rather, 10 and a 15-foot radius.
Do you guys have somebody that visits the site periodically? I know you're right across the road.
Yeah, we haven't even got to that yet. This is totally new to us.
Right.
So it's gonna be
However, it flows.
monitored, by cameras and like I said, I'm across the street. I'll be sending my employees over there to pick up garbage or, whatever.
Yeah.
We're gonna maintain it. It's gonna look
Yeah, look like your
just
gas
as
station.
pretty as a gas station. Yeah.
Great.
And then as far as the shininess of the building, it's gonna be a gray building with black doors, not black building with gray doors.
It's like pole barn steel.
Yeah, same thing. It'll be the same as a pole
So
barn.
typically, that's
Pretty much.
pretty matte,
Yeah, it's not gonna be shiny.
not super glossy.
No.
And I guess as far as the other thing for Corey, those permit processes are long drawn out anyway for MDOT and maybe not so much for the county.
And those are fairly common to be contingent. It's should go there well. If you do go plan approval or special land use, but those usually are contingent because before they break ground on anything, the township requires to have copies of those in hand. And then the applicant, if they do get approval, they have a year to break ground. If they don't, they have to come back to you to get an extension.
And we just received our review from MDOT today. In fact, their only issue was they didn't like the asphalt cross section. I think they wanted different designation for the layers, still 3 layers. Yeah, and the fence, it's just around the pond for now. They may add it around the whole site at some point, but shouldn't be required to have another site plan for that down the road, I would think. Not for fencing. But as of right now, it's just around the pond for protection essentially.
So are you planning to fence in the whole facility or no? Just around the
We're
pond?
not sure. We'd want to try to make it secure. So if we feel that there's going to be an issue, then we're going to fence it.
Okay. And then what type of sign? Did you
Well,
put sign?
We're not sure. I mean, a place like that really doesn't need a sign. So we were just because I know that sign approval is a whole separate permit process, right? So we were just gonna wait till we're under construction and think about what we do. A lot of them places don't really need a sign. They just have something on one of the buildings that has like a website or, something. So we never really got that deep into that.
Okay.
So basically, a sign on the site is up to the applicant. Is that how I'm reading that?
No, they have to go through the process, but typically, it's sort of the process that you can do it concurrent with
Oh,
the
okay.
site plan and get it done. Otherwise, they have to come back and do a whole separate procedure. They still do a sign application that can run concurrent with the site plan. Otherwise, they can't do it later. They can't put a sign up until they go through the sign permit process, which if you don't do it with the site plan, is its own process.
And the sign is required?
That's my question.
Is a
I
sign
think,
required?
I believe a sign is required, your address and identification of property is,
A sign
but I
is
don't
not.
believe they have to have.
That was my question.
An advertising sign.
Right.
They have to distinguish the address and the location for emergency services.
All right, landscaping. What are you proposing for the
Now,
landscaping?
it is noted on sheet 10 that the landscaping is all, landscaping, the berms and trees are all going to be completed as part of phase one. Phase one, yeah. That was brought up last meeting, so we made sure that was on there. I think, one row of trees should be pretty sufficient for that. It's, it's a storage facility, it's not going to be super high traffic or anything like that, so. It's not gonna-
10.
Page 10.
Site's not going to generate any noise or anything like that. Not realistically, anyway.
Phase one landscape will include phase two.
There is only, it's only one, it's all the landscaping is to be completed as part of phase one. Berms and trees. As far as the species of tree, we weren't specifying it. As far as we're concerned, they should be able to use any one of those or even any combination of those trees.
Single row.
Single row, yes, 12 foot on center.
Berm detail?
Below that is the actual, that's the, that's the plan.
So what page is it on? What
That
sheet?
is the landscape plan right there.
No, but I'm not asking for the berm.
Oh, the berm.
Yeah,
The berm detail.
Berm detail.
I know it was on the previous set, I just can't find it.
I see it on page
It's not
10.
It's not on there, it's on page 10.
It's on page 10, but I only see it on the southwest side of the, south and west sides of the property. And
Yeah, along the
Solid
north side,
line.
we're doing a little bit towards the east end on the north side, but for the most part, the only we have to do a bit of land balancing, so the actual site will be 4 to 5 feet lower than the highest part of the grades, which is on that north side.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Okay,
Page
so
6.
It's on page 6.
what I want to mention on the berm is they show the locations on page 10, but page 6 shows the cross section, 2 foot top, 1 feet slope, which is fine. But I guess the point is, it's called out on the plan as a minimum 3 foot high berm. So it could be larger, which is perfectly fine. And then they're also calling out for 8 foot tall evergreen trees, each species being 8 foot, which, again, when you put with the berm, we've done this in the past. Detroit Edison is an example on their plant where they had a larger berm, but some of the trees were smaller because you go to a 6 foot. But they're proposing the 8 foot trees with 3 foot berms, so you essentially get 11 feet immediate. Obviously, they grow and they fill out. So I just want to point that out is you still have complete discretion at how you want it done, single row, taller berm, what have you. But that is what they're proposing. The trees themselves are taller than a minimum. The 8 foot has been pretty much a standard in the last few plans we've been getting. And then the berm is 3 feet minimum. So you're gonna get a minimum of 11 feet coverage on the perimeter. Again, you're dealing with spacing between the trees, but eventually those grow. And part of the special land use and site plan is, it's not a 1-year guarantee by the tree planter. If the trees die 5 years from now, the owner applicant has to replace those because it's part of the approved site plan. So it's not a get in, you get the guarantee from the company that plants them. It's in perpetuity because that is part of the approved plan for this, should it go forward.
I believe it's noted on page 10 that they would be responsible for that or dying trees replacement.
I believe it is also, and it does show on there that everything is to be planted as part of phase 1.
So are they planning, oh, you said, Corey, they're planning on top of the berm.
Yes.
Especially along that southerly side, that's where we've got the residential, so.
Yes, that's the important.
The north side is currently ag, but it's, I know it's future plan to be industrial as well.
And
so.
also, there's a natural tree line there
Yeah, I see.
anyways, and I'm hoping that it's on my property and I don't have to cut it down. Because that'll help, you know.
It is on your property?
It runs right down the property line where the trees,
fence.
actual trees stop,
Yeah.
over, the canopy is still significantly over that, but.
Anyone have questions for the applicants?
I just have one other little note, I guess, mostly just because of my background, just with the top of the berm only being 2 feet wide. I think with an 8-foot tree, you're gonna have a 2-foot root ball. So that may want to stretch that top of the berm, just the width,
I'd require that.
just because and I don't think it's a big deal, but
Bit better.
yeah, you're gonna fit better. You're gonna erode, you're gonna have roots. And
Yeah.
issues with them living.
Yeah, okay. But I want to make them live.
Yeah, I don't know what the.
Well, I agree.
Good
If
one
a
would
tree,
be
you're gonna have
2
a
foot, I
wall.
mean, that's like the width of this table.
Yeah.
That, just a little note that I noticed.
Yeah, that's a valid point, because on an 8-foot tree, you're gonna have a ball of
Big.
over 3 feet. So it wouldn't fit on the top of that, so I think that would be a point to consider, to make that usually minimum 45-foot top. Side slopes are fine, 3-foot minimum is good, because some places maybe more. But yeah, I think that should have moved forward. I think that would be I would recommend that berm be at least that,
At least what?
let's say 5 feet top, because you're gonna have a ball of at least 3 feet.
Trees are gonna have a better chance of living.
Right, it's gonna help. No.
Anyone else? Any questions for the applicant? All right, if you want to have a seat. All right, thank you. Any discussion from the planning commission?
Yes, I have one more question. Habib, you mentioned the fence not being around, only around the detention pond.
Yes.
Detention pond, whatever you call it. In the event that there would be problems, what kind of problems without having a fence around there? Break-ins?
Yeah,
Vandalism?
just, if we have a problem with, somebody breaking in, we might have to put a fence or maybe, berm the front or something, just make it where somebody can't get around our gate.
Be pretty hard anyway, I think, with
Well-
that berm and the trees.
Yeah, well, on the front, yeah.
Yeah. And the access off Dryden Road, that's phase 2, or is that?
Yeah, that's we're gonna have that's where our construction traffic is gonna start. So that whatever they put that in would be part of phase 2. But I
After
think we
phase
want to
one.
use that, I think we're gonna want to use that too, because,
Better than Van Dyke. Roger that.
So when phase 1's complete, there's gonna be 2 active.
two accesses, yes.
Just to be clear on that, to do that, you will have to improve that entrance and a
Oh, yeah, yeah.
hard surface all the way in. It won't be a gravel
Right, we'll
surface
have to have a permit from,
from the county road commission,
Yeah.
but from that entrance to wherever phase 1 or wherever you end up at, that'll be a hard surface drive.
Yeah,
It won't be a gravel
asphalt.
drive.
Right, no, it'll be
Okay.
professional looking and,
Let me say, because sometimes people build the approach and they say, well, it's not our main one, so we just want to gravel it or
no,
recycle
we want
asphalt.
easy
You'll have to-
maintenance. We want asphalt and it'll be, we want plow trucks to be able to push the snow and not have gravel all over the place.
Thank you.
Ray, what's your opinion on curbs?
We had talked about that kind of early on. Based on the drainage, it's not necessarily a requirement. Everything's drained to the center of the aisles, which is typical for this type of use because you have buildings on each side. And the parking area is up against the building. So I didn't really, with the criteria we have for drainage or traffic circulation, it's not necessarily a requirement. Where we typically have it required is if you have catch basins in the curb line or parking lot islands. As far as drainage and vehicle patterns, this wouldn't be a site that would say be warranted because of that.
So curb and gutter, is that at the discretion of the planning commission, or does that have to go to ZBA?
I believe that if it's warranted, the planning commission is warranted via those criteria, and if you say it is, then it can go to the ZBA to go against that recommendation. So yes, at discretion of the planning commission.
So if we were okay with it, it still needs to go to ZBA then?
No. No, I don't believe that's at least past that hasn't done that. If it's required and the applicant doesn't want it, the planning commission says we want curb and gutter.
Okay.
Then they can appeal that to the ZBA.
Rick, let me just look it up for you, okay?
Yeah, because I recall in the past that we've had curb and gutter come to ZBA. Yeah, STE was one,
Superior.
Superior and St. Ange. I don't remember the name of his.
And those have been ones I think that because of the parking lot features that the planning commission has wanted. Well, I know for sure Superior and STE both. I don't remember St. Ange if it was required in there.
Yeah, Superior got a variance
Yes.
from the ZBA for that
I think,
because of St. Ange. St. Ange's was allowed, and then George came back and brought it to ZBA. I'm okay with it. I just want to make sure we're right on process so that
Sure.
we want to give him the correct direction, so.
I think,
Move to approve special land use SLU 23-01 for Jimmy's Storage as it meets the 4 review standards of Almont Township Ordinance 39.22, Article 5, Section 5.3.
Support.
okay, it's been moved and supported. Any discussion?
To meet this, do we have to mention the standards in the motion? Yes. Do you have a boiler? I don't have my bag with me tonight. Unfortunately, I came right from work, so I don't have my boilerplate stuff to use.
It's in the car, let me go get it. Someone's got a copy.
Dennis made that motion.
Just move over there.
Visually.
So what I'm reading is.
Yeah.
You got it?
I had it. So I'll revise my motion. There you go.
So you're making a motion to approve special land use?
Yes,
And then
I'm
you have
focused
to-
on the special
Then you
land
have to
use.
review the site plan review.
I'm talking special land use, yeah.
Okay,
Okay, special, yeah. Site plan is separate.
that's right. So is this 5.3, section 5.3, A, B, C, and D.
Yes.
Yep.
So I have to read those. Okay, so Article 5, Section 5.3, review standards A, B, C, and D. A being the characteristic of the proposed special land use, such as location, size, layout, periods of operation, and character, will not be unreasonably detrimental to the surrounding neighborhood or create unacceptable offsite impacts due to traffic, dust, noise, fumes, vibration, smoke, or lights. B, the characteristics of the proposed special land use, such as location, size, layout, periods of operation, and character, will not unreasonably interfere with or discourage the appropriate development and use of adjacent land and building or unreasonably affect their value. Paragraph C, the proposed use is so designed, located, planned, and to be operated that the public health, safety, and welfare will be protected. shall be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance and the township master plan.
I amend my support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Any further discussion? I think it's a roll call vote, right?
Yes.
Roll call vote, please.
Dennis,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
Andrea.
Yes. All right, motion carries for the special land use.
What's that? It says curbs meeting construction standards established by the Township Engineering Standard Ordinance shall be required whenever the planning commission deems it necessary to control drainage or vehicle circulation.
Okay, so we can control it. Thank you. Oh, it's right here. And page 6.
And
So what did you conclude on that, Rick?
On the curb,
Curb and gutter.
I take, what they read is that we can allow or disallow. If Corey's good with the flow of the water to go towards the center of the aisles that lead then to the retention pond or detention, whichever we have, I'm good with that. Typically, the curbs, we just don't want it rushing out. We don't have people parking at the edge that are gonna drive out into the grass or so.
I gotta believe it's gonna be pretty low traffic in and out of there.
Well, and
Sure.
typically, I think when people are at sites like that, they're parked in front of they're gonna drive into something, they're gonna drive into the building, not onto the grass.
Right, right.
I agree.
I'm in
Especially
agreement
on-
as well.
Unmanned or,
Right.
no one really there. They're gonna. I had one, I never parked at the office ever. I went and did my thing and left.
Did we capture hours of operation?
I believe, wasn't it 24 hours with the code they get in?
Is that the plan?
That's the plan. We really didn't want anybody there at night, but we're just gonna start that way and limit the hours.
I thought last meeting Lori mentioned that it was like closed from like 10 to 5. I didn't either. I just thought that was what she mentioned.
I'm typically on a special land use, we have hours of operation of some sort to control it. Like STE, they can't have trucks coming in after 10 PM or whatever to work on unless it's an emergency in the snow. Some of these mini storages drive people running businesses out of them. So do we want them coming and going 24 hours? Landscape guys, that kind of thing. They take their stuff. They live in a subdivision. They take all their equipment, shove it in there for the night, and then go get it in the morning.
The drawings indicate 24/7.
Just kind of throwing it out there.
So just so you know, design standards for storage facilities, page 827. Regarding parking, storage, so on the site plan, we should have noted as well, no storage of combustible or flammable liquids, explosive materials, toxic materials, no storage outside, self-storage of the building, so there can be no storage outside of the structures. The use, the premise should be limited to storage only and shall not be used for operating any other business or maintaining or repairing of any vehicles, recreational equipment, or other items.
Okay.
Just so you know, I mean, look, this is special land use. These things are in there in place for, a special land use is you can revoke that use because it's a special land use. So in the event that these things are operating, it allows the planning commission and the township to cease operations.
So whether their rules have it or not, the township kind of already has that to supersede it. You know, whether they wanted to let someone run,
Yeah.
work on cars or not, they can't.
They can.
No,
There's not any power for anybody to use it.
I think you captured most of that in the notes on page 2. At least note 1 and 3.
I think you're correct, Dennis. I think that was discussed at a previous meeting.
Yeah.
No, especially
Yeah.
note 3 addresses that.
I can see that.
To the fact that our standard covers that, does it need to be included in the motion or is it implied at that point? They have a column.
It's implied as well as they've noted on your notes here on page 3.
If I could add, just based on what was talked about tonight, on my review, the only stipulation I would add, based on the plans here, is that if, and this is completely on the owner, if they are going to do the Dryden Road entrance as part of phase 1, perfectly fine, but I think because these plans are a phased plan, it should be an easy amendment, and I don't think it's a matter of an amendment that I think has to, if everything else is satisfied, I think that's something that would trigger coming back to the planning commission. I'll just be contingent on modifying phase 1 to include the entrance on Dryden Road. And if they don't, that's fine, we can say it as it is, but that way it's a clear record when they're building it, that what are they doing on Dryden Road, that was phase 2. And there's no reason they can't do it as part of phase 1, but I think because this is a phased special land use, it should be clear.
If we approve both phases, that would include that second entrance.
I'm sorry.
If we approved both phases,
Yes, but it's a little different when they show it as a phase 1 and a phase 2. You know, generally, if it's a phase 1, and they decide we're just going to keep going and build all of it at once.
Right.
That's fine, but generally they will come back to the planning commission and say we're completing the site as a whole. It's more a procedural issue,
Mhm.
but we like to have it as a record that the initial phase 1 includes these 2 entrances and this many units. Because they have kind of a timeline to complete this. They can't, phase 1, it can't go on for 5 years.
Gotcha.
And that's the only reason. Yes, they could go and build it all. I mean, we're approving the plans for phase 1 and phase 2. The caveat to that is if they do wait 5 years to do phase 2, generally they do come back to the planning commission for approval on phase 2 because things can change, ordinances can change. And that's just kind of what the risk to do with phase 1, phase 2. But again, it wouldn't be a matter of the plans have been approved, they say we're going to go to phase 2, same plans would go. So it's typically how the phased plans go.
So I'm thinking I'm seeing 3. The need for the MDOT permit, which has already started, well on its way. And we're recommending a 5-foot height, width on the top of the berm, and that the Dryden Road entrance be included in phase 1.
The only caveat to that is just include a general, all required permits shall be obtained, because you have MDOT,
Okay.
you have road commission, you have soil erosion. I think that's it.
Septic.
so do we need,
And I don't think they have.
No.
Septic, but-
Corey, let me just ask you then, for phase 1, so process procedures, so site plan approval, so 4.3b, site plan approval shall be valid for 1 year after use. So I think the thing is, what I'm trying to remember, I understand phase 1, phase 2, and you can approve the entire site plan right now. The applicant's saying, we're just gonna do this bit, call it phase 1, and then do that bit and call it phase 2. But your site plan really does expire within 1 year if you don't pull all the building permits and get everything.
Correct, they have a year to start it. If they
Yeah.
don't start the year, they have to get an extension.
You know,
If they're working through
they
the
get one
process.
more year extension, right? Which we've been in that whole fun stuff for a while. The drama. So what are we are kind of saying here that, you know, they could do phase 2 in 5 years or phase
Well,
2 and
And that's what I said, that's when they go on to phase 2, they come back to the
Okay.
planning commission. And typically, it's an administrative presentation, if nothing's changed, the ordinances haven't changed. They come, we're gonna do phase 2, they go through, basically the plans back.
so administrative meaning that either reviews it or it does come.
It
back.
does come with plan.
So it is a site plan review then? Okay, it's not administrative, okay. Just want to make sure I'm understanding this.
Feel that we need to include the amount of units in the phase 1 as part of it, or just mention the entrance?
Yeah, I think this modifying phase 1 to include the entrance.
The units are pretty clearly detailed on what's phase 1 and phase 2 on there.
So Madam Chair, I just want to reiterate kind of what I've heard here on
Yes.
regarding my letter. So going back to zoning compliance on my letter's appearance, we have a proposed steel black building, which is the discretion of the planning commission is the zoning ordinance with obviously brick as well. We haven't seen material samples, but we're just allowing a black, technically non-reflective building. I'm not really clear on it. In terms of fences, it was a no, maybe. I don't know how the planning commission could come back and ask them to provide fencing in the event that there is just people going through there and debris flying away into the street or somewhere else because it's unmanned and people leave crap behind, for lack of a better term, apologize for my language. Signs, there is no sign, so no one's gonna really know necessarily where it's at. Obviously, they know it's a storage facility, but coordination with first responders. Curbs can be waived. Trees are going to be planted now. However, species of trees has not been determined, but it's listed as some type of evergreen, fir, spruce, pine, Douglas fir. The berms need to be designed, need to be modified to allow an 8-foot tree. So screening, green belts, landscaping, so on and so forth, building type material are all still in play, and I'm still not very clear as to what is actually being proposed by the applicant, which is the onus is on them.
Okay, can you,
I think you said the building's gonna be gray.
It's gonna be great with black doors.
Black doors.
Yeah, black
So
doors.
gray, steel, brick, brown brick, or?
The brick is only gonna be on the front building, just the one facing Van Dyke.
Okay,
And phase 2, if it ends up on Dryden Road,
yeah,
whatever's facing Dryden Road will show a brick face.
okay, so that the front, the
Yeah, like the,
narrow side of the
doors,
no,
yeah.
narrow side of the door.
yeah,
Okay,
it'll
very
look,
good.
it'll make it look like the whole facility's like that.
Would the plan commission want to see renderings, the elevation provided, so that we know what, not just in word, but actual in the plan set? So that Corey can, down the road, know what he's looking at, without looking on YouTube?
He's got pictures from the company's website.
Yeah.
And they're pretty basic.
I think my comment is I just want to see on the plans. I understand the intent. I think the plan commission is pretty, for the most part, in agreement. I think seeing that on revised plans with those details is important because then there's no record for staff, Corey, or anybody to go forward. So I just want to make sure that it's a win-win.
Those, that should be noted on, I think, sheet 6.
But I understand, but like I said, what we saw then, what was mentioned earlier, like without it being on the actual plan stamped signed, there's no way of a record going forward.
I guess I'm not sure you're asking for. I've never heard of a reflective building just being reflective like that.
Well, I've seen buildings that are steel and reflective, and they take them all down, so. I can show you examples, one's up 24.
So to clarify the comment, the plans call for black steel and gray doors.
Yeah.
That's not bad, but we're saying it's gray.
Steel with black doors.
So it would be a matte gray.
Matte finish. No problem adding that to the plan.
What page is that on, Corey?
That is sheet 10. It does say the facade between the above doors shall be baked gray on the east face of building number 1. I do agree that you can absolutely get a steel that is reflective. You've seen it now, but you're being specific that matte gray and matte black. Which obviously you can get that also.
Could we see those flyers the samples that you have?
They're just pictures from the Trakey website. That's the manufacturer.
Is that where you're gonna order from?
They're all kind of different.
Mhm.
Passed around. Or
Yeah.
Just kind of examples.
Okay.
It's just the stock images they have on their website. Wow.
So you're proposing the brick on the front all around in the front entrance. Everything else is going to be matte gray with steel black or steel matte gray with black and brick. Black doors, black roof. Okay. And I agree about the trees with the 5-foot berm, waving the curbs. The sign you can do later.
Well, I suppose another point about maybe in the minutes, I would agree, I kind of made a note of it. Without the fencing, to make a point of a possible condition of being, the site being kept, I guess I would say tidy, but trash and debris free. Without the fence, not to say that it's a good thing to see with a fence, but the fence does stop people that leave cardboard boxes out. They close it up, throw it outside, they take off. They're right across the street, so they'll be patrol, keep an eye on all of that. Concern is if something happens and ownership does change. So if it's a condition that you put on here specifically, there are blight ordinances, but if it's in your plan specifically, it carries a lot more weight. That's a violation of the site plan or land use.
Okay. Well, I think this is your third time coming and you've really done a great job. You've done everything we've asked for, and I think it's going to look really good. Yeah. Does anyone have any further discussion on the planning commission?
Is it on the prints that the buildings facing the major roads will have a brick beside? We're getting these drawings tonight, and that's kind
It
of
might only be noted on building one.
facing
We
that.
can make sure it's also noted on.
I remember it being
Yeah,
on building one.
Dennis, on page 10, it refers to just the east facing. So that was something that I had written down.
It says building one on page 10.
Okay, I thought I saw it last time.
Are you working on a motion?
No, the face is facing.
So the south side of all the buildings along the
Yeah.
back of the road.
Yeah. Okay, so far our contingencies are to remain trash and debris free, the matte gray, the brick on the front facing all main roads. Curbs are waived, trees have a 5-foot berm, and the signs can come back later. Am I missing anything?
5-foot top.
5-foot top berm, yes.
Dryden Road entrance to be included in phase one.
And Dryden Road entrance to be included in phase 1.
All permits. You get that?
Yeah, he has all permits, all required permits.
Did you bring up signage?
Signs can be, they can do the signs at a later
Separate
date.
application?
Yeah.
A lot of applicants include the sign so that they don't have to come back.
They like coming back.
So and maybe this goes back to the building department, Ida, how do we follow up that these contingencies are met? Or does that go back to Corey?
I think it's a matter of procedures.
Okay,
Once it gets approved, and then there's a pre-con meeting and with Corey, and certain things are taken care of. May I ask them a question?
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Are you planning to make these changes and submit another revised plan with the contingencies marked?
Yes. Typically, they would submit it if it's a contingent approval. We would review it, planner would review it, planning commission chair would review it to make sure they're all addressed. Planning commission chair at that time would sign those plans as being the official. So you don't have to come back here next month if it's a contingent approval. The other part, to make sure they get done as far as the building improvements, these changes or whatever on here would have to be on your building application for your permitting that will go to the building department. We do inspect that part of it. Typically, we do the site inspection at the pre-con. We go through all the ways done, not the building. If we note something on the building, typically historically it's been lights that we go through. By the way, very particular on lights in Almont. I think we talked about that early on. So whatever's here, if you do change it, I recommend not doing it. So whatever's proposed, just keep it. But building department would ensure what's been a condition on here through the building permit application because they have to meet that. And then pre-con, if we notice a lot of times it's too late at that point, but not too late. They have to go back to the drawing board if they don't put the brick on or different, it's not a matte gray color. But once it's here, it has to be on their building plans. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen that where it's not, but that would be the next step, is that these requirements are on their building plans, that they apply for the building permits specifically.
Thank you.
Can you tell me one more time, just before I wrap, because we've talked about this for a while, sorry to interrupt, Madam Chair. What is the setbacks of the rear of the property? What are they for this overall site? What are the figures there?
80-foot building, 80-foot building setback next to residential.
Can you point that out for me, Corey?
It's on the sheet, in this corner here.
On the right sheet?
That sheet.
This one here? 80 foot.
So for 80 foot,
Okay.
we're going to do 40.
Yeah, I think that's considered the rear.
Where do you see it, Corey?
Sheet 2 they call it, so on the topographical survey.
Oh, I see.
See, my only concern is, looking at it is, it's 80 feet, which is the right number. If you look carefully in section or table 8D1, so this would be on page 838. If you follow down and keep going down, you'll see here for industrial districts. There's a requirement here on figure 8.7, JC figure 8.7, page 843. The note says here that if the exterior yard borders a residential district, thou shall be provided a rear yard setback no less than twice the required side or rear yard. The corner lots, side yards must be equal setback required on the front. And so there's one small corner that just caught my eye. Or if you look on that page, there's a 40-foot setback. There's 80 feet, which is acceptable. There's one little spot there that says 40.
That's a side yard setback there.
Yeah.
That's a double side yard.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're getting it right.
It's one of the few side yards the planning commission lets call a side yard instead of a rear. That little strip, and then I think around the C2
Okay.
corner parcel. So it's not residential.
And I guess to note that, clarification.
See, on that, it says zone AR agricultural residential on that side yard there.
Yeah, it's 40 is a double of a side yard. Doesn't say it says double side yard or rear yard, depending on which it is.
So if the exterior yard borders a residential district, which it does, there shall be by a yard setback of not less than twice the required side yard or rear yard. Corner lots, like this one, side yards must be equal to the front. So that's a little different. We're talking about the rear at this point. And if I move back up to this table, the rear yard for industrial is 30 feet. You guys can't see it on there, but if you go to page 838, table 8D1, it says 30. So at a minimum, that little corner needs to be back technically another 20 feet. On this spot right here, where it says 40, setback 80, that caught my eye there.
There's no building inside that, even 80 feet, I don't think, from the property line. Page 3 of the site plan.
I think it's more of a clear, because the building itself is plus or minus 90 feet in that area. It is correct that, because it does border on there, would be a different setback.
What do you want
But-
to call that as?
But my point is it's not about building, it's just the setback. So, whether it's traffic circulation or not. Just want to make sure that. Madam Chair, my point is that that rear corner there that I've just mentioned on the screen is It's a little tight.
One setback commission has to be fixed.
20 feet? What did you
So
say?
this would be
Yeah.
sheet, on your site plan, sheet 2.
Sheet 2.
you know.
Right here in the corner.
And it needs an additional 20 feet, you said?
Sorry,
20 feet?
I believe so.
Okay.
That's a question.
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Come on up.
So on that setback, is vehicle traffic not allowed in a setback? Because like at the gas station, our setback is all the way at the first pump from the street. And there's cars driving through there all the time.
It's just a building setback.
So if we look at definitions on setbacks, we're getting into the semantics of it all, aren't we? So setbacks.
We're saying that's a side yard setback, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay, this is industrial, correct?
It borders residential.
Yes, it is industrial.
So measuring setback requirements, so 2.6.
And, yes, and on page 843, it says the side yard setback is only 20 feet. When it's bordered with a residential, it needs to be twice that, which would be 40. So do we have an inconsistency in our tables?
Oh, that's a good point. Let's see here. Where are you looking at?
8-43.
8 dash 4.3. Page 8.43. Scroll down there. So yeah. New building.
You looking at this one? Yes, sir.
So it might be corrected here. So schedule regulation, so 843.
I agree.
So setback requirements for I-4. So what's the statement or question again?
On 8-43 for an industrial district, the side yard setback is 20 feet. And if it borders a residential district, it should be not less twice required,
Yeah,
side or rear yard.
I think we're probably good. Because if I look back here closely, I think you're right. It's because it says here, schedule of regulation between buildings at table 8. D1, I missed that part between buildings, which is 838, page 838. It's asking for 30 feet, so between residential. So I think we're good there on that. I just want to make sure that we didn't miss something there.
Thank you, Alex.
Mm-hmm.
Dennis, do you want me to go through the list again?
You got it.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to go through this list one more time. All applicable permits to be pulled. Curbs waived, top berm 5 feet wide, facade matte gray, brick on front buildings facing main road, trash and debris free, include Dryden Road entrance on phase 1, signs at a later date. Did I miss anything? Okay, so those are the contingencies.
So the trash and debris free, does that mean if it's not, then a fence would be required? Is that what we're saying?
No, there'd just be a violation of the site plan.
Okay, all right, got you.
And an ordinance number 64. An ordinance 64, right?
Would anyone like to make a motion?
Make a motion, please, Madam Chair. Make a motion to approve the site plan as amended with these contingencies. All applicable permits will be pulled. The curbs, as noted in the zoning, will be waived. The top berm around the property, completely around the property, will be 5 feet wide at the top. The facade will be matte gray with black doors and brick on the buildings facing the main roads.
Support.
The site is to be kept trash and debris free and include the entrance on Dryden Road in phase 1. Signs will be at the owner's discretion at a later date.
Support.
Okay, moved and supported. Any discussion? Okay,
Kevin, could you include the project number and the drawing revision dates? Project number 2022.
Yes, that's a good point, Dennis. I apologize. Project number 2022-0031 with a revision.
The revision date will be different because they'll have to address those items and the chairwoman will sign those, so it'll be at that date. So these are not.
I was gonna say based on this current level.
The job number's fine, I wouldn't recommend a date on this, because this is a current review. The final in the motion should be approved, would be, the final one would be the date once it's signed.
any more discussion? Okay, could we have a roll call, please?
Absolutely. Kevin,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Tracy, Dennis,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Nick.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Congratulations.
Welcome to the
Thank you for
neighborhood.
coming in.
So, to be clear, the next step is make the minor changes that we discussed.
Yeah.
Typically, at that point, isn't it 3 full size?
3, 4, 5.
So 1 for the applicant, 1 for the township, and typically we don't have the smaller ones, but we usually go with it. And then also
You want
PDF.
PDD? You want PDF?
PDF is usually fine with me. But that's typically the process, and then those, you bring those in, you submit them, we review them, plan review, make sure these contingencies are dealt with. And, then the plan, and the chairman would sign it as official meeting.
Excellent. So you want three sets?
Yeah.
3 more sets?
And PDF.
And PDF. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Good
All
night.
right, good night, thank you.
PDF me.
Yes. I'll actually PDF my boss.
You guys.
All right. All right, excellent. All right, moving on to our favorite part, our master plan.
So everyone in front of you, so I wanted to bring in front of you to talk about it before you just start reading it and start thinking, well, what is this all about? So I have your draft here of the master plan. We've incorporated all those sections that we've discussed thoroughly in the past few months, whether it's history, introduction, demographics, natural features. We've included those sections back into the master plan. We also have your existing land use plan that I think we beat to death. We also have your goals and strategies in your future land use plan, as well as your implementation plan. So I kind of want to go through these things and, over the next days and weeks or whatever it may be, get me your input if you want to coordinate through Andrea or through Dennis. If you have comments, you guys could email me comments or anything like that, suggestions. Some things obviously we'll incorporate, some things we'll have to discuss. But here's your draft physical copy. I like to provide everyone a physical copy in person because statistically, they say that everyone reads better and understands better with a hard book or paper in front of their face as opposed to these tablets, because that's why kids can't read anymore. It's relatively dense. I want to also note that, the formatting will change when we make this really pretty, when I have the marketing team finalize all the look and feel and banners and colors and everything to match Almont. So it's going to be a little longer. So right now we're roughly at 70 pages. So it's going to be a little bit longer of a plan, for whatever that's worth. So in the front of the building, we don't have the cover yet. We'll provide you that in a nice, beautiful photo of Almont. But you have your table of contents, the chapters. I've taken the liberty of making sure that each page is reflective to the section. So if you page what's 34, I have no idea. -2, 13, or 4-5 is going to be in that chapter. This will be pretty much a interactive PDF, if you will, for the table of context in the front of the master plan. If you want to click on a certain section, your zoning ordinance should do this too. If you want to click wetlands, it'll take you straight to wetlands. You're not going to be scrolling through and missing things and not enjoying that. So some of the formatting for the list of tables and figures may change with the formatting. Because some things will slide down, because you'll notice that some of the tables and charts are kind of cut off. But for the sake of saving paper, it's all right here, densely packed into 69 pages, double-sided. We have some list of acronyms, of course, as we reference those throughout the master plan. A few things changed in terms of demographics. I recently reviewed demographic section again, along with our editor, and realized that one of our former colleagues didn't have some of the information and percentages correct. So there's small, minor things I'm talking about within, a figure of 10 or 0.23 of what we had before. So minor changes, nothing noteworthy to change the direction or the vision or the view of Almont as a community in terms of demographics. So I've added that there for you in terms of the demographics. If we move forward into the existing land use section or natural features, like I said, some of the comments that Dennis had, I've noted back in here. Things to note in terms of just general information regarding soils and natural features. Things are types of woodlands or significant woodlands in Michigan, that type of stuff. So that's pretty much relatively the same otherwise. Existing land use, we've talked about these things. These are similar type of language. However, we've rewritten all of this. I know we were supposed to just do an update numbers, maps, stuff like that, but I've taken the liberty of rewriting certain sections and paragraphs and sentences just for the fact that it reads better this way. It removes some of the redundancies in your master plan that you guys had before. That was a joint master plan. As you can see, we've added tables into this existing land use. Given the data that we have, you'll notice on page 4.3, land use distribution, we have figures here and a pie chart. If you look at the next page, which is your existing land use map that we talked about, there's a few extra categories that exist. However, based on our research, we didn't find those type of existing land uses, like for noting vacant. We did not find vacant land. Pretty much all the land said for, owned, so on and so forth. So it's a legend on your existing land use map, but you don't have any actual vacant land in the township, technically speaking. Some of the heavy work that I did was the survey results. I know that was something that you guys took on, that you guys elected to do yourself. I know I provided you guys some of the questions and you guys revised those and made those what you want. But what I did was I took that, instead of just taking your survey and just slapping it on here and calling it a day, We have an introduction, of course, to what survey results and what type of method you guys used. A little bit about that, so if someone picks up and asks what happened, how did it work. And to each question, I did some, narrative, part of, synthesizing the questions there. What you'll notice more about, besides, questions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, some of the questions were 2 questions in one, right? You asked, what is it that you like or don't like? What do you favor? How do you view it? And some of those things also had a part where folks could respond. And so in the appendix, we're going to have that whole giant list of all the ugly things everyone said. But what I did is I just synthesized all that, and I would put it into either 2 or 3 or top 10 most common things that we talked about. And so these are in here, written out, spelled out for everyone to read. You'll notice that a lot of these things that were discussed also are correlated into your goals, strategies, and tasks. So there is commonalities, there are themes that carry over. You guys didn't make up stuff out of the blue. You did take consideration of what the general public said. You don't have to do what they said, but more importantly, you did take what they said. And a lot of the things they said were also things that you guys agreed on. So, we have a community that has a shared view, which is a great thing. So if you notice, like on figure 5, question 8, we talked about survey asked respondents to rate the following as either strongly agree, disagree, or strongly disagree. So we talked about the economy of Almont Township is headed in a positive direction, right? So we talked about those things. If you go on to the next page, let's see here. Oh, the following page on that. So page 5.8. We asked about outdoor recreational activities. We asked, are there any specific types of outdoor recreational activities you'd like to see more in Almont Township? Some of these questions had, 40, 50 responses, right, or more. And so I've taken somewhat of a liberty to synthesize that for you guys into something that's meaningful. Some folks just had run-ons. Some people said nothing at all. Some people said, I want, the new Little Caesars Arena here, whatever, they want everything. So we pretty much put everything in here that I think matches, and you can kind of see by reading it that there is a theme that comes across. So that was a bit of work, but goals, strategies, and tasks, we went through this thoroughly. We reviewed it 2 or 3 times. There should be no surprises here in terms of your goals, strategies, and tasks of what you guys wanted to see in your community. But this also correlated, if you go forward, into your future land use plan. So with your future land use plan, what you need to have in your master plan is a layout and a purpose and the reason why you do planning to begin with. You've noted those things in the State Enabling Act, P33 of 2008 as amended. We have your future land use map that we talked about a couple times over. We have your land use classifications as we see in your master plan. We have a breakdown of those uses throughout currently right now in Almont Township. We've also included your zoning plan that we talked about a couple times that I've memoed you guys on as what you guys want to see as your zoning that would, potentially get amended or into your zoning ordinance. The one thing I highlighted here on page 7.6 is PUD. I don't believe you guys had anything on there. I thought 6 acres for your PUD is a good starting point. It's up for you guys if you guys want to see it 10 acres or 20 acres. There wasn't anything there, I don't believe, so I added 6 acres and I highlighted it for you guys to, if you see a highlight, something for you guys to look at. But there isn't really too much. On top of that, we talk about, recommendations for zoning ordinance amendments moving forward, annual reporting, 5-year review process, your standards review, for a master plan when you think it's necessary. Obviously, you guys felt that after 5 years from 2018, which was the updated 12 plan, or 13 plan, you guys want to do, kind of update it. So it's not just an update, it's kind of an overhaul, considering kind of the changes that have happened in the township. So if you want to, if you're looking at down the road and in 5 years, everyone's happy, things haven't changed much but things are the way you guys want them, then fine. I mean, I don't think there really is a need to update your master plan. You can look at it, say it's great, we approve it for another 5 years and move on, right? But if things do change, if you do see conditions that the plan was based on have changed significantly, if there's errors in the plan, if there's changes in resident sentiment, people want different things in this township. It could happen. New issues addressed that come up, who knows? Someone strikes gold in this town and everything changes. And then the plan is out of date in some capacity. Those are things that to look for as if you were to look at a plan going forward. The other thing is the implementation plan. This is new for you guys to look at. We do this with our RRC communities. Implementation plans, I think, a best practice. What we've done here is based on your long list of goals, strategies, and tasks, we've created a short list, essentially a top 11 things that you guys can work on. And that's strategies, who's responsible parties. Potentially, you guys can look at and change those things when you guys want to do it. Is it this year, next year? Is it just ongoing? And obviously, funding sources. Because this is a living, breathing document for you guys to look at and review. A lot of things here are either, given the context of your community, it's either going to be general fund related or Michigan Department of Natural Resources because of the agricultural nature of your community. There could be, oh my Lord. So for number 9, it's kind of a silly thing I put on here though. This has changed recently this year. So I don't know if you're familiar with redevelopment ready communities. Are you guys at all? Yes, no? If you're not, then I wouldn't be surprised. So redevelopment ready communities is that program that was developed by the MEDC. My former professor at Wayne State 20 years ago started this program for inner ring suburbs. I know I've talked about this before, but I'll say it again. He said, well, how do we make these inner ring suburbs that are in so many ways obsolete buildings? They don't have the space. The wedge between Detroit and wealthy suburbs. Nothing's happening. How do we make them a viable place, right? So they said, well, they need to update their master plans. They need to update their zoning ordinance. They need to do things to make an initiation to get investment and development and some life-breathing activity in their communities. So they love this plan. The state bought it, and they created this whole new thing. Ironically, it was only open to historic communities, like the Village, or other places that are involved in the RRC program. The Village of North Branch is a certified community. There's other people that are engaged in it. You have to do all sorts of best practices, master plan updates, zoning ordinance updates, capital improvements plan updates, stuff like that. In the past, it was exclusive just to these historic districts that that I worked with regularly. This year, they decided that a lot of communities like yourself, non-charter townships, just regular townships, were saying, "What about us? What about us? What about us?" So MEDC said, "That's fine. You know what we're going to do? We're going to have $5 million. 3 goes to RSC communities. They can apply and get funding. First come, first serve. If you got $100,000 master plan, we can fund that." But the other, they put $2 million aside for non-RRC communities, and that went really quick. Okay, so you have a master plan in place. They've already exhausted funding for this year. There's plans that they might bring funding back again this year. They're looking to work on that. I don't know what that looks like or when or how, but if you want zoning ordinance updates, that could be an eligible item, right? So you have a master plan, you have a zoning ordinance, that could be something that RRC, you guys could get that funding through them. And that's something that you have in your implementation plan to look at, zoning text amendments, and other things like that. So I left it in there. You guys can put another spot in there. You can put nothing in there. I just kind of put as a placeholder, redevelopment ready communities. I want to spell it out for you, because if you read this a month ago, you're like, when I gave it, or 2 weeks ago, you'd been like, what are we talking about? So I just wanted to share that with you. The timelines can change, of course. You can reorganize the priorities. But I think this is something that I would like you guys to look at, is the future land use map and the section in the strategic implementation plan that's part of it. Usually it's separated out, it's another thing altogether, but I kind of lumped it all together because it's one leads into the other. So look at it. If you have comments or questions, I'd be happy to answer them. You can email me directly. So that's kind of shortly how I can go over a 69-page page as it stands right now, and without having to read it verbatim for you. But so you have a context of what you're looking at. So some of the stuff is pretty much the same things we've talked about. Some of the things are a little new, but I encourage you to read it and provide comments and questions or edits. So we can then make it look real pretty, and we can have a public hearing and celebrate.
This looks excellent. Thank you so much, Alex. I'm beyond impressed. I think this is absolutely wonderful.
I try to make sure that, our plans at Row, we try to make them real neat and clean. People can read them. They're formatted properly just so that they're easy in the eyes. And because it really is nothing that you guys don't take this and throw it on the shelf. Something you guys can carry with you. When you have rezonings and stuff like that, does it match what you guys want to do in the future? So, yeah. You guys have any questions? I'd be happy to answer.
Questions, comments?
So how do you want to proceed, Alex? You want comment? Yeah, I guess, Madam Chair, how should we go forward as far as providing comments to get a document ready for review next month? I don't know.
Right. I mean, we can meet next month and go over
Provide
any
your
comments you guys
document.
have.
Provide your comments.
Or you guys could provide me comments in the next week or two, and I could make those changes and have marketing hit it, and you guys could have your meeting next month. And then,
Would 2 weeks give everyone enough time for reading and comments?
Send them to him or wait till next month? That's my question.
If it's within 2 weeks, would that be good to send to you, or do you want us to bring them to you next month?
it's up to you guys. You guys are on a tight timeline. I don't know. I mean, there's no set date. It's whatever you guys want to do. If you guys want to meet next month and talk about it, if you want to turn around to me, I'm just putting it on the table for you guys to decide what's best for you. I'll provide you guys an electric copy after this meeting. I can send you guys a PDF and you guys can look it over, but I wanted to give you guys a hard copy so that you guys can write on it. And that's probably easiest for you guys.
I think you're going to end up with both, Alex. I think you're going to get feedback between now and the next meeting and at the next meeting.
Sure.
So, yeah, because 2 weeks, that's quite a task to get through this in 2 weeks and provide it. Okay, I'm good.
All right.
So you guys want to meet next month and talk about it? Is that
Yeah, we'll meet next month. We'll talk about it, give everyone some time, and then.
And in the
if
meantime, if
there
you
are
guys have questions, just drop me an email and I'll look at it or try to provide a response. It's, make an edit or respond back to any comments or something like that.
So I guess I have one other procedural question. When do we engage with the township board? You said a public hearing?
Yeah.
Township board?
So that's a great question. So I should have here on my PDF a sheet of what that looks like. Bear with me. I can provide you a memo outline of how that works. So without misspeaking, let me find here. I think I had it in the kickoff possibly.
It's a question, do we do a public hearing prior to turn this over to the board for comments or after?
Sorry, say it again, Dennis.
What do we?
So you guys will look at it, and then you guys could have that meeting and say you're good with it, and then you send it up to them,
Okay.
the township board. Township board looks at it and they say we're good with it, and they can either assume responsibility and carry it through, or they can say no, we're going to send it back to the planning commission. They'll have their final public hearing. We'll adopt it then, and then we do that 63-day review where it goes up to the neighbors and they look at it, and the county and so on and so forth. And at that point, there could be some reviews or comments then too. But that's how it works. So I usually carry a chart.
I think we all have that.
We do, we have it.
It's just it's just a white and beige colored timeline of public notice and then all that. So we're pretty much at either step, I think 3 or 4 right now, if I recall. So, should have it here somewhere, but I can share it with you guys. I'll attach that along with the copy of the master plan for you guys, so you know what that looks like. It's spelled out there for you.
I remember.
Mm-hmm.
All right, any more questions for Alex?
I just had one on the future land use map at the top. The commercial has grown, it appears. Where did that come from?
So that's a great question. So that is when Ida provided us the zoning map of all the rezoned parcels. So the zoning map, if I recall correctly, I can look back at my notes, but the zoning plan included all this. So in the future land use, that would be commercial. Now, existing wise, it's not commercial. If I look at the map carefully here on.
Existing is on 4.4.
Yeah, so there's nothing there now. But what you have is.
But that's incorrect, because it's commercial. The last piece in the township on Van Dyke is commercial. And then it goes into the ag residential, but then on the future land use map, this is now all red. So is this a desire that we have?
So that's
I mean-
based on.
I'm only asking because this happened 5 years ago,
Yeah.
where it showed up at the last minute as red. And the meeting after this was approved,
Okay.
that was brought in for rezoning.
All right.
I asked 5 years ago, who brought that forward? I wasn't able to get an answer, and I'm not holding you responsible
Yeah.
for that. But, I mean, this kind of stacks the deck, right? This allows this board
Right.
to do a rezoning based on a future land use map. So I just want everyone here to understand what that shows, that if that comes to us a week after or whatever, that this is something that we looked at and approved.
Right, and so that future land use map, that draft I provided with you guys, and there was no further comments or changes. So that's why this map's here in this draft. Now, if you guys want to change it, it's up to you guys. This is, future land use is what do you guys want to see in the future. If you don't want to see
Absolutely.
commercial up there, then we can change the future
Absolutely.
land use.
Yep, I agree. And I'm just
Yeah.
bringing that to the attention because it went from green to big old red there, and it looks like it's probably one parcel south of Lumberjack Shack,
Not exactly sure.
if I had to guess there, of that whole facility there, so.
Future land use.
I thought we were keeping all the commercial just up the Van Dyke corridor.
Sorry?
I thought we were gonna keep the commercial to up just the Van Dyke corridor, not off. So I thought that's what the plan was for the future land use, to keep it commercial.
Right.
Just up
there's-
Van.
But that's all residential right there.
Right, but in the future, if you guys want commercial there.
I mean, to defend the person outside of our township, we put a huge commercial complex right next to someone's house.
I'm not sure where that is.
Superior Contracting is the
Oh.
last, they're the last piece
Right,
of
right.
property in the township. The next piece of property in Imlay City
My city.
is a house. We put that huge construction company right next to a house. We wouldn't have done that anywhere else in the township. We did it because it was a border, and we did it because it showed up on here as red and
As
said,
red.
oh, okay, it's
It's
commercial.
commercial.
Right. So I sometimes things kind of make their way in, and I want to make sure that everybody knows that it's there. So the meeting after this gets approved, if we see a rezoning come in.
What about the south end? There's a lot more commercial done.
South End was red, if I recall, from last time. I don't know why it's not, because the existing, the one that's on here, the existing isn't right. Because it doesn't even show, it doesn't even have Superior on here as red.
Existing?
Yeah, on the existing.
Yeah, you got, looks like the bank and
Yeah,
Thumb Gun on the south end.
Yeah, it's not. And that's, yeah, you're right, Thumb Gun. And I think the one next to Thumb Gun, if I remember. Because it was supposed to be Nash and Gostomsky were going to put they were going to put their model on that piece of property next to, north of Thumb Gun. The model that's in town was supposed to go out there on that piece. So just everybody on the board, just
Yeah,
take a
just-
good look at
yeah,
the existing,
consider if
the
you want
existing
the,
land use and the future
commercial.
land use, because we want to make sure the existing is correct, and we want to make sure that the future is what we want.
So just going back to existing land use, we have this map, which is in the plan right now. I'll bring it up here. Let me just scroll down to it. Rick, you're absolutely right about your comments. I mean, I agree with you. So this is the time. So this is the existing land use map. Well, I mean, you guys already have it. This doesn't do much any better. But originally, what I provided you guys a while back was based on that information we got from the township on tax identification, like what's actually being used, what's actually out there.
Right.
And you know, guys were kind of surprised by it. Mind you, this is all yellow. I don't know why I'm showing orange with this monitor, but that's the yellow.
Right.
And the question was, there's no way, that's all ag, that's all ag, that's all ag. Yeah, I understand it's been ag in the past, but tax-wise, the existing land use is technically a single-family residential. They may have a little garden or whatever it is, but it's not actually used for agriculture purposes.
Well, our zoning is ag residential. It's one.
I know
We
that.
don't have
We're not talking about the zoning map. That's a completely different discussion. That zoning map is one thing, what
Right.
it's zoned.
Yep.
We're
And then
talking
use.
about existing land use, what it's actually being used right now for. Okay? And then we're talking about future land use as to what you guys want in the future. So this map, as you can see, there is commercial up there on that very tip. If we go to.
Certainly, it's being used as commercial right now.
Right. So that's,
Why I'm asking the question.
and I'm supporting that.
Right.
So what I'm saying here is we went to this map based on the feedback of essentially saying the existing land use is the same from the previous plan. So that's how we have this map here. And so that's how we have a slight discrepancy in terms of the very top there. And so in the future land use map, if I scroll down and not lose my screen, you can see that we do have a bit of commercial at the top. So that was between the zoning plan, the zoning map that we have on record with all the rezonings and why there's a bit of commercial up here. We had the recent rezoning there, of course, which is the industrial Jimmy's there at the corner. Okay, and other industrial uses as well. So,
So that's not on here. And the one that you provided us,
existing land use.
the existing land
Well,
use.
it's not existing right now. That's still as it stands, it's been rezoned. But the existing use is still technically, I believe, agriculture. There's nothing there right now, or single family or whatever it may be. So we gotta understand, I know it's a little confusing, it's what it's zoned for but what it's actually used for. Like I could take a parcel, I live in a house,
Mhm.
it's a house.
Mhm.
But my zoning map says it's actually zoned commercial.
Mhm.
So it's gonna be a house until I wanna tear it down and put up a store. And that's what the zoning map shows, is that's commercially zoned. The future land use map, you guys could say it's commercial. Or for whatever reason, you guys say in the future land use map, we wouldn't mind even seeing that to be industrial. So there could be a difference in that. So I'm just trying to give you an example of how one leads into the other, because, yeah, it's not necessarily intuitive. So why you would have existing land use, what's actually occurring right now as we speak, is zoning map, which is when someone comes to IDA and says, what can I do there? And say, this is what it's zoned for. And then the future land use map is what you're proposing. So it's going to be a mix of existing, it's going to be a mix of the zoning map in the future, and you guys could change that around to your discretion.
Excuse me if I understand you correctly, Rick. You're saying on the existing land use map, Superior Contracting, which is zoned as commercial industrial, is not depicted on the map as that. It's
Correct.
depicted as residential.
And like I mentioned earlier, and I'm going to reiterate what I mentioned, is that I provide you guys this tax classification. So I know it's been a few months, but Lapeer County's GIS is down. It's down for a while.
Okay, but hang on, the tax,
Yeah.
it's an existing business.
I know.
It's zoned as commercial, it's being used as commercial, it's being taxed as commercial, and on our existing land map, it shows it as ag residential.
I understand that, Rick, and you're absolutely right. So what I mean to say is this map here in front of you, which you guys saw I presented a while back, you guys said that wasn't correct, if I recall, and that all these properties aren't residential, single family, but they're ag residential. And so the tax identification is the method used for GIS mapping. That's what they use. The assessor determines what's being taxed for. There's a layer of the maps, and that's the information, because we can't access current GIS. Fortunately, Paul bought it a year ago. We have it on record. We took that information and created this map here that's on the screen. So the plan, you guys said that wasn't correct, so we provide you the changes you mentioned, which were essentially the old existing land use map. So there is a discretion. So you're right. On this map, that very tip there on Van Dyke is commercial in your existing land use map. Based on what I provided you guys a month ago, based on the tax identification codes, is what creates GIS. And so then the pushback was, for lack of a better term, was no, the existing land use map was more accurate or more reflective. But in reality, this is exactly what's going on out there right now.
So why wouldn't we use that? I guess I'm confused.
I don't know. You guys didn't want to. So I could incorporate this in the existing land use and make some.
I think the only point of contention is that Superior Contracting's property is not shown as commercial on this document.
Well, I just use that as a,
So which one's Superior? I can't. You
It's
guys,
the red one right at the tip.
There's commercial, just like it's shown there. That's Superior, the red. And
Oh.
that's,
Would it be helpful if we knew, Alex, if we knew certain things were in the wrong category? Do you want us to email you?
well, I think the thing is
you don't have the ability to change this
You
map,
can't,
right?
you can't
we
change
do,
it,
we
you
do.
can.
Okay.
I think the thing is the reason why there's been delays, and it should be noted, because we talked about this over a couple of meetings to length about the map. So we're trying to improvise based on the fact that Lapeer County's GIS is down and it won't be up for a while. So to carry forward, like Dryden, we haven't done anything. We're sitting still till that thing's done because we didn't have this type of information. So we're using this information because it essentially is the same thing. So we can change, but I mean, for the most part, this is pretty accurate in terms of what existing land uses are occurring. I think the moral of the story here, the most important thing is your future land use map, your implementation plan, what you guys want. You're not legally bounded by an existing land use. Existing land use, along with natural features, demographics, and God knows whatever else you guys want to research, you know, is part of the plan because you guys just want to research that stuff and have a basis to make a future land use map and implementation plan, right? So we're trying to solve something here and find an answer to it. So yes, Rick, you're absolutely right in terms of how this has worked out. And we could pinpoint some of these. Now, the other thing is, why isn't that particular parcel? I can't speak exactly to it. It's commercial, so on and so forth, this, that, the other. That really is a question for the assessor to figure out, well, why isn't that being considered a commercial, industrial, whatever property? They're the ones that run the numbers, run it with the parcels, so on and so forth. I just get the information that they provide. That's how I operate. Not for me to decide what's who and what. So,
So is it incorrect then to say that the Almont Township tax classification map is or is not existing in the land use map? Is that one and the same?
it's essentially one and the same. It's the basis for how they do GIS mapping.
Right.
Yeah. And luckily Paul had it, because otherwise we would have never done this.
So that one would reflect existing land uses more accurately than this one?
And if you do have 1, 2, or 3, or whatever, acres, dozen of parcels, we can make those changes. If I know what parcel they are or whatever it is, I can make that correction on the map. And that's for you guys to determine.
You don't agree with that, Rick? I'm trying to get this clear.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I use, certain things that I'm familiar with. I know that there's a site, there's a piece of property north of Hollow Corners, south of Smokehouse on the east side of the street, that the zoning or the tax classification is commercial. A couple girls own that property and they want it, if you even drive by, it's for sale and it says taxed commercially, but it's not zoned commercially and it's not on the existing land use map for commercial. So it's not on our radar,
So it would show up red on.
but
the
they're
tax-
paying
tax-
taxes on a commercial property, trying to increase its value.
Oh, yeah, right there.
So what they're saying is to the public is it's commercial, but it's not.
Correct. They're voluntarily paying commercial tax on a piece of residential property. So that one right there shows up. That's that one that you just pointed out.
Which one, Corey?
That red one right there,
That's where the apartments are.
that would be multifamily.
That's the little carve out just below it.
So,
The apartments are the little carve out just.
This
right
one here?
there. That's the apartments,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, you guys can say that's not commercial, it's residential, and that's a true existing land use, regardless of what they're paying taxes for. What we're trying to do is paint a picture of what's existing in the community.
so if I just look at just to move down a little bit, what appears to be like Smokehouse, if you compare the existing land use map with the future land use map, existing is showing what looks like the Smokehouse property and the lot to the south of it is in red. That's on existing, but in the future land use map, it's only where the Smokehouse is and the piece of property below it is back to ag residential.
So where am I looking at, Rick?
Just south of what we were talking about.
Here,
So
You're in the tax one, go back to the existing versus.
in the master plan that you handed out to us, I'm looking at those, comparing those two maps.
yeah,
And
like I said, this existing land use map, based on your guys' direction, is for the most part a copy of your 2018 map with a few notable changes.
Right. Well, if anyone has any changes that for updates for this map, just email Alex if you know something is wrong with this, and we'll move on to something else. Okay. Anything else?
I do have a question for Alex. On your future land use map showing commercial, it seems like we're dotting up and down Van Dyke, commercial spread up and down Van Dyke. I don't know if that's a good idea, especially when I look at the south end where all that red is now surrounded by residential homes or residential zone property. Now, where future, we're saying we want commercial next to residential. And we've only got, well, the bank is on the corner of Huff and Van Dyke, and then we got Thumb Gun, which is one little spot there.
Yeah.
So we got two spots down there, and now we're saying.
So
I
this
don't
is
know
a
if-
combination also too of the future land use map is between your existing, what we have there, and a combination, we included the rezoned parcels. So we have the zoning map and parcels of record that Ida provided me a few months back to create this future land use map. Because in the future, you guys identified that this parcel will be commercial in the future.
I guess I just don't, is it a good idea to spread, you got a piece of commercial there, then you got a piece of commercial at Huff, then you got commercial up south of Tub Spring, and you got a little bit more south of Dryden Road, and then we got it all the way up to Webster Road. I'm just questioning whether that's a good practice or not. Seems like that's almost like spot zoning.
Well, no. So I know what you're saying. You're saying, should we limit commercial activity? And that's up for you guys to decide
Okay.
what you want in future land use map.
Okay.
Now, what we can do is provide you guys, I can show you guys a zoning map of what you guys already have out there that you've rezoned over the years. That's just sitting there, rezoned for the future for some whatever potential development. Now, spot zoning would be something that would be, the example of spot zoning would be,
Country
I'm
Smoke
over
House,
here.
Thumb Gun.
Well, no, let me so spot zoning would be something that's contrary to your future land use map. Someone wants to rezone something, you're out here in agricultural residential area, I want to put a corner store for whatever reason, and you guys allow someone to rezone a property despite the fact that it doesn't meet your future land use map. So that would be a spot zone.
Okay.
It's something that's contrary to your master plan, your zoning and everything else. You're gonna allow a certain use to go in the spot, which is contrary to everything else. That would be spot zoning. So I'd be happy if you guys want, I could change the existing land use and match the tax classification if you guys want. We can revert back to that. Sorry, the wrong tab. We could revert back to that. It's up to you guys. I know we beat this like a dead horse, and I know everyone's shocked to find that many single-family uses, but that's what it is out there. And I believe these are, we have industrial vacant, which is correlating to your zoning here of industrial on your draft future land use map, right? So, yeah.
Everyone else good for now? All right. Thank you, Alex. All right, Corey. Anything for engineering?
No, there really hasn't been much change from last week. The only thing, Pinecrest hasn't started up yet. They were talking about starting in May. We haven't got word from road commission or the builder yet that they're doing anything. And other than the site plans you've seen, that you've seen here last week and this week, or this month, hasn't been much change.
Thank you. Tracy?
Nothing on ZBA.
Ada?
For June agenda, I have the communication tower and the draft master plan.
Draft master plan.
Okay.
Any planning commission general comments?
Yeah, I'd had annual reviews we typically do in June, and I think the thought process was we were gonna do it a little bit different. And I wanna make sure we're all on the same sheet of music here, because what I understand, we would do the reviews at a specific site plan when it was coming due, rather than do them all 15 or 20 in June. Okay. Now that's gonna probably put the load on Ida and Corey, because I'm not sure. I look at Corey's last month's list, and he's got 10 on there, 2 of which are pretty much wrapped up, or more than 2 probably. So I'm not seeing a whole lot of open site plans that are coming up for a review, but they would be
Well, there are
laid
two-
out in what, like 2 months before their expiration or something like that?
But there are 2 site plans that were approved and there have been no activity on them. I know the one contacted me, said they were still trying to make it work, but they're trying to get 10 pounds in a 5-pound bag, and it's really industrial. And they're having difficulty with that. And the other one, I haven't heard anything from him, so. You have the as-built from Superior?
Yeah, we submitted that last month. That was a recommendation last month to approve that unless there's any outstanding issues from the planning commission. Yeah, the only one that I think needs to get a minute, I guess maybe from Ida, a recommend or suggestion is DTE.
Oh,
Really
yes.
they have not requested a final walkthrough. We've been out there, we haven't been out there. Sometimes we do a cursory drive through to see where they're at, and they appear to be pretty much there. I know in their mind they're done, but they haven't requested a final. I think they're still holding quite a bit of their deposit money in place, but
Well,
quite a bit for any of us, but not for DT, so that's probably why they haven't called.
well, my conversation
It's a round
was,
error to them.
it's up to you to contact them. I can contact them, I have no problem with that.
Yeah, we generally don't contact unless it's just because we don't force the inspections.
Yep. Yep.
We do, if we haven't been out there, they haven't called for one, we know there's activity, we do a drive-by, and that's with every, whether it's DT, and usually we do them all at the same time. Has there been activity? Do we see anything? Sometimes contractors work without calling for inspection, it's kind of weird. But sometimes we just try to avoid that when we can.
I do have a contact, but do you have the latest contact?
I will be shocked if I had the latest contact from DT. I have about
I
5
have
different
contact, and
contacts.
I've talked to him because he's Mike Chris's son, and he's the new guy out here. So I can ask him if he could give
I have no problem.
an
with
idea
DT.
of when they think they would need you out there.
And if you want to send that contact, because every contact I have is a different department, or he's not here, or, so.
They do move a lot in DTE.
But really, that's my list, that's one outstanding ones that's actually ready to be done and final. There's a couple site plans that, again, it's kind of interesting when they have site plan approval and then you get engineering. It kind of sits in limbo.
Yeah.
So those are the ones that we look at.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I think we need to really take a close look at section 4, our site plan approval process. I couldn't find any place in there that said how many drawing packages were required. It used to say 12. I don't see anything in there now that says, I can't find it anyway.
That'd be on our application.
It is on the application form?
It is on the application.
I think it should be in section 4. I mean, section 4 talks about, let me go right to it.
Well, part of the reason we're just going through that, why I think in the past we deviated from that, is because then when you amend just how many plans or type of plans you need, you're amending the zoning versus having on the application, you can just present the application, it's not a.
It becomes a document control issue, Dennis, and you get dichotomies between what we need here and what they need there and all that.
Like what we've gave flexibility for, everybody wanted the big prints. And we've kind of gone away from that as much. We're on PDF. small print, there's flexibility, if it's in the actual section, then it's a zoning amendment to change it. I think that, I'm going from vague memory, but that's why a while back that was changed.
Yeah, my memory said it was required for 12 copies.
I think it still
I don't see it
is.
anywhere.
Well,
I think we reduced it down to 10 because the planner and the engineer prefer PDFs. They don't necessarily want the hard copy.
Township copy, planning commission.
And the fire chief.
Well, the only thing it says is site plan application shall be furnished by the number of copies required by the township.
Mhm.
So the question is, where does it require the township to say?
On our application.
Okay, all right. I just,
And it can definitely be in that section, but that's why I kind of went away from.
I don't know how we could hold our feet to the fire for what we got tonight. I can't find it any place.
For what?
These drawings. For 12 copies, 10 copies, or whatever. It's on the application.
The initial is, yes.
Okay.
How many did you get?
All right, and I guess the other part of it is I'd like to understand the process once we approve a site plan with contingencies. You laid it out really well, Corey. Is that documented any place? In the minutes?
Yeah, this, I've been here 22 years, and that's the way it's always been done. And it's done in the minutes. I don't think it's spelled out. It's a contingent approval. It's always been 3 sets and approved by the consultants and the chairman to make sure, chairwoman to make sure everything is done. Now, I guess I'd have to check. I'll be honest, I've been doing it so long that I can't just do it. I can't tell you what section it's in, but
I guess I'd like that stuff documented, you know.
usually it would be on that'd be part of a contingent approval, and you know, have the plan come back and signed by whatever. But yeah, that, there's no problem with contingent approval. You could specify what that is. But contingent approvals, you can also make them contingent on coming back to the planning commission next month. Or you make it contingent, if they're minor, the chairwoman and the consultant review to make sure to make the changes that were part of the contingency.
So just contingent is, you approve them contingent, they provide you the stuff, and the staff reviews it, so it's off your plate.
Right.
Not to be confused with postpone until they bring you back what you need.
That's true.
And then you review it. Either you approve, postpone, or deny. But if you approve with contingencies that they'll provide you the samples to the staff of the material, or whatever it may be, that's how that works.
But to say that, there's no reason that can't be spelled out.
Okay, it's right here, Dennis, 4/4/12. Determined by the planning commission that certain requirements of this section are not necessary to the review and understanding of a site. The planning commission may waive the requirements. Any and all waivers, contingencies, shall be recorded in the commission's minutes together with the unique circumstances as reasons for each waiver. 4/4/12. 4-4, item 12.
That's when you can waive the site plan requirements that are spelled out as on the 22, 24 items.
I'm not finding it.
Article 4-4.
4-4.
I'm sorry, it's actually 4-2. It's on page 4-4. It's actually in 4-2, 4.2.
Oh, I see it.
But it's on page 4-4.
Okay.
So that, if you want to amend that statement, that's where you would do it.
So you're saying, okay.
So it doesn't mention the drawings, but it does mention the contingent situation, that if we have deviations or contingencies, that it's documented in the minutes.
And
And
The
it's
drawing-
supposed to have a reason too, it says.
Right. And, you know, at that point, you can say, we want this many drawings, and they're gonna go to this person, this person, this person.
In the motion. Okay.
But that can, I can look at that, as far as the application. It's been quite a while, but we went over that application a number of years ago. I can look at that, also see if there's an easy way to spell that out.
Good.
Yeah, that's not a bad. It's not a
Okay.
problem.
Any other comments?
will make a motion to adjourn at 9:15 p.m.
9:15, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.